Good morning everyone and welcome to today's episode. Like I said in last episode, we're going to be jumping right in and we're going to be making a brand new part from scratch. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into it. No games, ifs, ands, or buts. We're getting straight into it on this episode. Let's go. I can feel it. So, like I said in last episode, we're going to start building a part, like I just said in the intro. Regardless, today we're going to be focusing on a handbrake that I am currently building. Right now I'm probably showing you a design that I've actually already developed for a handbrake that I wanted to make for the car. This is also going to be a product that I plan on selling both for sim racers on PC and for actual drifters out there on the track. The idea is that this is going to be a full carbon fiber handbrake. And the handle is actually going to be a threaded handle, so that way you can replace the knob with any knob. You don't necessarily have to use the knob that I've designed this for. I feel like it's one of the things that's not currently out there is there's not really much of a handbrake that really has any knobs that you can replace or change. So that's actually kind of an idea that I had. It's nothing too terribly major. This is really just a project for me to focus on learning how to develop a product from scratch in SolidWorks, and then also how to transition that into making that into an actual product from carbon fiber. So in today's episode, we're actually going to be focusing on the knob portion itself. I had a little bit of a design that I was playing around with and I was trying to make work, but unfortunately I was having some issues with the top portion. I was kind of adding some knobs, and I actually did end up 3D printing that out, and it came out okay, but due to where there was a lack of support systems for those ribs at the top that I added, it didn't really print out super smooth, and there was tons of rough edges around that area. So I went ahead and just scrap that out for now for the mold. I was a little worried about how the carbon will actually fill in the recesses if I were to keep those ribs in the knob. So I went ahead and just took this out completely in the design. And for the mold itself that we're actually currently designing, I left it to where it's a little bit more of a simple shape. I have the VR at the top, obviously, for Venom Racing, and then I added a little bit of a design on the side with XCIX. For those of you that don't know, XCIX actually does stand for something, and you guys can definitely take a guess as to what it is. It's definitely not too hard to guess as to what that stands for, but that number is actually the number we plan on running on the car. That's always been my favorite number and the number I've always ran on all my personal race cars. So we're going to keep that tradition going with this car, and we're going to be running an XCIX number on there as well. So I went ahead and put that to the side of the shift knob and incorporated that into the mold. We basically made the mold a 3-part mold. We've got part A and part B is what I'm calling them. It's the 2 halves that basically create the knob portion itself. And then part C, which for a lack of better words, we will call the push rod. That is actually what's going to be compressing all of the chopped carbon that we're going to be putting into the mold and forcing the resin to kind of infuse with the chopped carbon and fill the volume of the knob entirely. I may have to play around with different sizing of said push rod, but I think I have a decent volume for right now for what I'm attempting to achieve. I know I'm going to have to put quite a bit of chopped carbon into the mold itself in order to fill a lot of the volume that we're looking to fill in the knob, but I actually want the knob to have a fair bit of volume. I plan on then tapping some threads into the bottom of the knob. That way we can easily just screw the knob into the handle itself. So ultimately we ended up designing this knob, like I said, from scratch. We got these 2 molds, 3 molds technically, that we're now currently printing. And I spent quite a bit of time trying to get the 2 halves perfect, and actually even the 3 parts perfect. I want to make sure that they all fit perfectly and smoothly. I made sure to add a little bit of a radius around the edges so when the 2 parts are being added together, they snap in quite smoothly without any issues whatsoever. So here we're basically just finishing the way those 2 parts are combined, and then we're ultimately going to be transitioning that over into the 3D printer where we'll be printing out the part A, part B, and part C. So pretty much that wraps it up for this time. We're going to be finishing out all these parts on the current 3D printer. Once those are done, we'll be pulling those parts off, and then we'll actually be attempting to create a part from said molds. So on the printer right now, I've got part A printing out. It takes about a day and a half to print all of these molds out because we are printing them at 100% infill. That way they are as strong as possible, because for the mold itself, we don't want there to be any type of flexing in that part at all. I'm also printing these out of PETG, or PETG as it's more commonly known in the 3D printing community. This material has been proven to be pretty strong and pretty resilient to cracking and stuff like that at the layer lines and everything. We also are going to be sanding these pretty smooth once we pull them out of the 3D print. So we're going to be saving all that for next episode. This episode was mostly just the design and the implementation of the design and getting it all printed out. So I hope you guys really enjoyed. Next episode we'll be getting the mold, like I said, completely pulled off the printer, and then we're going to actually be attempting to make a carbon knob from the mold. So stay tuned. I hope you guys enjoy, and we'll see you next time. Trip, why,